Have you ever felt like there is something inside you that acts without your permission? As if decisions that seemed rational were actually being guided by an ancient, silent, untamed force. Carl Jung called this the unconscious, an invisible territory where desires you don't admit, fears you don't name, and impulses you try to ignore continue to determine your life. But what's most frightening isn't the unconscious itself, it's what it holds. There's a deep force, an energy that runs through the history of your psyche like an underground current. You don't talk about it, you don't look at it directly, but it's there, present in every choice of clothing, in every carefully selected word you say to someone you're attracted to. It's in your fear of not being noticed, in your obsession with being accepted, in the pain of feeling invisible. And this force has a name: sex. No, I'm not talking about the act itself. I'm talking about sex as a psychic symbol, as the hidden driving force behind almost everything you do. It's the desperate search for belonging, for validation, for connection. It's the continuous attempt to be seen, touched, desired. And the more you deny this force, the more it dominates you, in a disguised, insidious way. It turns into anxiety, pent-up anger, an addiction to success, empty relationships. Jung understood that the sexual impulse is not taboo. It is a key, one of the most direct doors to your inner truth. But few have the courage to walk through that door, because it means facing your most unmentionable desires, your best constructed masks, your carefully edited public image. It means admitting that maybe you are not who you think you are. Most people live shaped by this energy without knowing it. They make choices guided not by conscious will, but by a primitive desire that has never been integrated. And when repressed, this energy does not disappear. It infiltrates. It enters your dreams, your decisions, your obsessions. It becomes a shadow, and the shadow ignored does not set you free. It imprisons you. Little by little, it dictates your steps while you convince yourself that you are free. Modern culture has built walls around this topic. It has surrounded it with guilt, shame, jokes, or moralism. But none of that makes it any less real. Sexual desire is an active, living, influential psychic force. Ignoring it does not make it stronger. It only makes you more vulnerable. And the more you repress it, the further you are from yourself. Because the truth is simple and uncomfortable. No one is free until they reconcile with what burns silently within them. How can a simple glance destabilize you more than an entire speech? How can desire, that impulse is denied as it is powerful, make you betray your own convictions, abandon lifelong plans, or lose yourself in relationships you don't even understand? This is the force that dwells in the unconscious, and there's no point in trying to control it with pretty words, repression, or moralism. This force demands to be recognized, understood, integrated, or it will end up swallowing everything. This is not a video about sex. It's about what controls you without you realizing it, about the invisible thread that moves civilization while it pretends to have overcome it. And now, you are faced with two paths. Continue believing that you have control over your life, or begin to see what has always been there, lurking, shaping your decisions. The truth is not comfortable, but it is real. And that's where Jung comes in, because he not only understood the complexity of human desire, he showed that within each person there is not a unity, but a field of forces. Desires, traumas, masks, and fragments of what you call I coexist in tension. Jung called this the self, a totality that you rarely access because you live divided, fragmented, trying to balance what you feel and what you show. And at the center of this chaos dwells the libido, but not the genital libido that Freud described. Jung went further. For him, libido is pure psychic energy, creative, destructive, essential. It's the foundation upon which your personality is built. And yes, it is also sexual, but not in the vulgar sense. It is the root of transformation. The problem is that by denying this, you divide yourself. You cut off parts of yourself. And this fragmentation makes you a character of yourself. Someone who lives between what they are and what they would like the world to see. Everything you repress hides in the shadows, but there it continues to act. And the more you avoid it, the stronger it becomes. That's why you repeat patterns, attract the same conflicts, find yourself in addictive cycles. This is not bad luck. It is unconscious repetition. When denied, libido seeks balance through chaos. It escapes wherever it can. Jung said, "What you do not make conscious becomes your destiny." Not recognizing your sexual energy does not protect you. It just leaves you at its mercy, because desire, when repressed, does not die. It deforms. And a deformed desire not only distances you from others, it separates you from yourself. Most people are not what they seem to be. They are edited versions of themselves, shaped over time to avoid rejection, meet expectations, maintain an order that inside has already collapsed. But beneath this well-behaved facade, there is a burning energy, Eros. Not the Eros vulgarized by cliches, but Jung's Eros, the force that pulses in search of connection, creation, expansion. And when you repress it, it doesn't go away. It begins to silently erode your decisions, your bonds, your sanity. It sabotages you at work, in your relationships, in the way you see yourself, because no part of you can be silenced without a cost. Jung was clear. All unexpressed energy turns into neurosis. And today, we are surrounded by it. Talented, brilliant, conscious men and women who are emotionally paralyzed, trapped in cycles of anxiety, emotional dependency, and existential emptiness. And few have the courage to name the real cause, the brutal disconnection from their own sexual energy, understood here not as pleasure, but as creative essence. Because sexual energy, when understood, is more than impulse. It is a tool for self-knowledge, raw material for rebuilding oneself. The problem is that we haven't learned this. We have learned to fear, to hide, to be ashamed, and entire generations have been raised to live mutilated with half of their psyche amputated. Desire does not disappear. It disguises itself. It dresses itself up as ambition, exaggerated romanticism, superficial spirituality. But it is still there, crying out to be integrated. Think honestly, how many of your most important decisions were made just to be desired? How many times have you taken on an identity just to attract attention, to guarantee attention, even if it cost you your truth? How many times have you sacrificed your authenticity for a moment of validation? When you answer this honestly, you realize many of your life choices were not yours. They were your unrecognized desire, and this goes beyond the personal. Jung spoke of the collective unconscious, and within it there is a cultural sexual mold, a set of images, roles, and patterns that you absorb without realizing it. This mold dictates how to desire, what is acceptable, what is too much. And when you don't fit into it, you start to believe that there is something wrong with you. But the mistake is not in you. It's in trying to fit where your soul never belonged. And the body feels it. The soul feels it. Because the mold may be beautiful on the outside, but it's a prison on the inside. The more you try to adapt, the further you distance yourself from yourself. And it is in this abyss that the symptom appears. Anxiety, insomnia, irritation, creative blocks, sadness for no apparent reason. Jung said that symptoms are attempts by the soul to heal itself. They don't come out of nowhere. They're the cry of a part of you that has been silenced. And maybe that cry is your forgotten sexual energy, not the desire for a one-night stand, but the deep Eros, the one that connects you to creativity, vitality, your personal power. It is this Eros that Jung associated with the process of individuation, not a mystical or abstract path, but an inner dive to find who you really are, beyond your social role, beyond your persona. And the first step in this process is brutal, recognizing that you are not free. Your chains are not in society or in your history. They are in your unconscious. In the shadow you swept under the rug, where your sexuality was distorted, buried, hidden. As long as you continue to deny this part of yourself, you will seek outside what has always been within. You will call love what is only a desire to be accepted. You will confuse success with a desperate attempt to compensate for what you do not feel. You will create goals that are not yours, bonds that do not heal, identities that suffocate, all because you have lost access to your source of truth. And society prefers it that way. It wants you tamed, predictable, disconnected from your deepest desires. Because someone who has integrated their Eros does not bow down. They see through the narratives. They don't need to mold themselves to belong. They are free. And for that very reason, they are dangerous. Because their presence is uncomfortable. Their authenticity exposes how much others are living asleep. But this freedom comes at a price. When you integrate your Eros, there is nowhere left to run. You can no longer say, "They did this to me." You have to admit that often you were the one who built the cage, that it was your own repression that made you a slave. This requires strength. It requires breaking with the identity of victim and going through a symbolic death, dying to the version of yourself that lived to please, to fit in. And that hurts, because some wounds don't heal. They need to be burned away. Imagine for a moment what it would have been like if you had learned all this before, if you had been taught that your sexual energy is a compass, not a problem, that you didn't need to hide your Eros, but rather listen to it, transform it into creation, into direction. Maybe your life would have taken a different turn, but it's not too late. The time to start over is now, and that choice can only be made by you. Repression is never neutral. What does not find a conscious channel to express itself finds unconscious loopholes to manifest itself. The unconscious does not negotiate, does not forget, does not submit to rational logic. It just acts. And if it is not heard, it turns into symptoms, disturbing dreams, sudden passions, impulses that seem to come out of nowhere. Sometimes it manifests itself as addiction, other times as loneliness. But always, always, it is the shadow trying to make itself seen. That is why Jung insisted so much on integration, because controlling desire is not enough. Repression is easy. The real challenge is to listen. What is this energy trying to say? What does it want to reveal? Eros, when not perverted, is an extraordinary creative force. Great ideas, transformative works, moments of profound personal transformation are often born from the transmutation of desire. Jung compared this to the alchemical process, transforming the lead of instinctual drive into the gold of consciousness. But this only happens when you stop running away and start diving in. Most people don't fear desire itself. They fear what it threatens to dismantle. Because if you listen to what you really want, you may realize that everything you have built so far has been based on an attempt to stifle that inner fire. And that requires brutal honesty. You may discover that the career you have pursued, The relationships you have maintained, even the spirituality you have adopted, have been ways of keeping that force under control. But desire cannot be controlled. If it is not integrated, it transforms. And what you don't transform repeats itself. Integrating Eros is becoming free, but not a superficial freedom to do whatever you want. It's the freedom to no longer be ruled by unconscious impulses. It's being able to look inside and recognize, I am this too. I carry this desire, this fire, this darkness, and I don't need to hide it. I don't need to transfer it to others. I can walk with it. I can create from it, and that changes everything. The way you love, work, create. Look at yourself in the mirror, because you stop fighting yourself. But freedom comes at a price, because when you integrate this force, you lose your alibi. You can no longer blame others, the system, the past. You have to take responsibility for your life. Admit that you built your own bars, that it was your own renunciations, your own fears, that put you where you are. And that takes a courage that few have, because we live in a culture that transforms pain into identity, that applauds the wound, but not the healing process. Change requires destruction. And to rebuild yourself with integrity, you have to let die the version of yourself that lived to please others. And this death is not symbolic, it is visceral. But on the other side of this journey, there is something you may never have experienced: authenticity. And here, at the point where everything seems to make sense, comes the most subtle trap of all, the most dangerous. Because once you begin to see Eros, once you understand its impact, a new mask can emerge: the spiritual ego, the illusion that you have overcome desire, that you are above it, that it no longer affects you. But this is also escape. It is just a new form of denial. Eros is not overcome. It is inhabited. It is not defeated. It is embraced with maturity. The real work is not to awaken desire. It is to live with it without using it as a shield, without turning it into an identity, without needing to show it or hide it. It is simply to recognize, it is in me, but it does not control me. And that is a freedom that frightens, because those who walk in peace with their desire do not need applause. And precisely for this reason, they are seen as a threat by a society that lives fed by masks. Look around you. See how many people are chasing money, recognition, aesthetics, relationships. What if all of this were nothing more than unconscious attempts to reconnect with the lost Eros, with that spark that we were taught to repress since childhood? Society wants you tamed because someone connected to their own energy cannot be manipulated. They don't buy empty promises. They don't bow to shallow narratives. They don't belong to any tribe, because they already belong to themselves. This journey offers no guarantees. It promises no comfort, but it offers something rare: truth. And once you start to see it, you can't unsee it. You may never be able to look at yourself or the world in the same way again. And that's a good sign, because only what is seen honestly can be transformed. If you've made it this far, write the word awakening in the comments. Not for me, but for you. Because acknowledging this out loud is a commitment to your own truth. And if this video touched something inside you, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. This simple gesture helps this content reach those who need to hear it now. And if you feel that this work has value, consider offering support of any amount. Your help strengthens this work and allows more content like this to reach more people. Here, the mission is clear: to shake you up, to awaken you, to remind you of what you tried to forget. We are not here to entertain. We are here to expose what no one wants you to see. Now close your eyes, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, What part of myself am I still denying? Don't expect an immediate answer. Sometimes what you need to hear most is exactly what you've been avoiding all along.